I once made a pair in a club game, which is almost impossible to do. But I've been obsessed with batting my entire life. And so I put that into my new book, The Art of Batting. Being that I'm not very good at that skill, I decided to talk to other people who were. So I hit up as many contacts as I could just to talk about batting. Rahul Dravid, Brian Lara, AB de Villiers, Kumar Sangakkara, Ross Taylor, Susie Bates, Nasser Hussain, Ian Chappell, and so many, many, many more. I wanted batters to talk about how they and their friends made runs, because that is the art of batting.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Third Innings Live. I'm Behram Kazi, who you can find at DefMango on Twitter. And with me is my colleague at Good Areas, Shayan Ahmed Khan. And you can find him at Tweets by Shayan on Twitter. And we are here to review India's 52-run victory over South Africa in the ODI World Cup final, the Women's ODI World Cup final, which is India's first piece of silverware in women's cricket. But before we get into all of that fun stuff, I'd just like to remind everyone that all of our shows on the Good Areas Network, they are powered by our supporters on Patreon, and you can become one of them by going to Patreon/Good Areas Podcast, and that way you can, enjoy ad-free content, you can talk to us exclusively, and you can give us podcast recommendations. Now then, Shayan, it's been a long time coming. 52 runs is what separated India from South Africa in a big World Cup final in Navi Mumbai. D.Y. Patil Stadium, packed to the rafters, in front of a home crowd, a big monkey off India's back. They've won their first piece of silverware in women's cricket, and that too an ODI World Cup, which always hits different because it's harder to win and it's got more prestige attached to it, at least in this current era. Maybe that changes in the future. But before we even get into the game, how are the emotions like? This has got to be massive for you, because what the girls have done over here, it's a monumental feat, especially given how they were criticized mid-tournament to the T. In fact, a lot of that stuff was unwarranted.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a very special moment for sure. I mean, I felt when they scored 200, when they set the target of 299, I thought they should be able to defend it. Although, if South Africa went on a run and, the way Laura Wolvaardt and Soon Elias were batting, anything could have happened from that point. But I think it's just Shafali's bowling. She just completely turned the game on its head, like with that rank off spin. And you just saw how the wickets were, right? One was a cotton bowled, one was caught down the leg side, Marizan Kapp. I mean, it just doesn't get better. And the innings that she played in that first innings, I think, obviously it was a very special feeling to win a World Cup, because nothing is bigger than a 50-over World Cup, man. Like T20 World Cups, Champions Trophies, all of that is fine, I think. But nothing comes close to this. And especially, I think, this means a lot for all the women great players that played before this team, right? The likes of Mithali Raj or Jhulan Goswami, Diana Adulji back in the past. These are the women who walked so today's team could run. And I think that's the perfect way to describe how, and the tributes were also really heartwarming, the way they shared the trophies with them, the whole trophy celebration and everything. And it was really special, man. Just everybody letting their hearts out. Jemmy in the last game, obviously. I mean, how expressive she was and how clearly she's talked about the issues and everything. Like, it's just a special feeling, honestly speaking. I don't have a lot of words in that regard, but I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I bet you do. And of course, it is, a Herculean effort. And everyone in India should be celebrating it, as much as they possibly can. Congratulations, of course, to all Indian fans, viewers and listeners, from my side as well. And also, you mentioned how this victory pays homage to all of those legends of Indian women's cricket of the past. Of course it does. But the overall impact of this victory, I feel like it will be felt for generations to come. This will be a watershed moment in women's cricket. It was already evolving at a rapid rate, almost at an exponential rate. And you can pretty easily put a multiplier of 5 or 10 on that. I feel quite confident in saying that. I mean, this was the most watched game in women's cricket history, which was expected. But also, this victory will inspire generations after generations of young Indian women. We both live in the subcontinent. We know how patriarchy is more dominant in this region compared to other countries in the world. And misogyny is a massive problem. It's a global problem, but it's, more relevant or more pertinent to this particular area or region, the subcontinent. It's a cultural thing. It's a social thing. At times it could also be a religious thing. But this will break barriers. It will shatter stereotypes. Parents will be more inclined to, encourage their young daughters to pick up the sport professionally. And all those girls will be inspired, man. The batting talents, young female batting talents will want to grow up to become, a Harmanpreet Kaur or a Jimmy Rodriguez or a Shafali Verma or a Smriti Mandhana. The all-rounders will want to grow up to become a Deepti Sharma, right? And similarly, if you're a slow left-armer, you'll be like, I want to grow up to become Sri Charity or Radha Yadav or one of those, cricketers. So not only does it inspire generations to come for women and girls and females in particular, but also I feel like, the impact of this World Cup will transcend genders as well. Because what you mentioned about Jimmy Rodriguez over there, especially, the challenges with respect to mental health that she brought up, how she would cry every day throughout this tournament and she was dropped mid-tournament and then she gives or plays the innings of her life in that semi-final. Ultimately, we'll always remember that innings. It's somewhat like NZ 92. Yeah. It's that semi-final innings that will be remembered for years and years to come. And I feel like it's going to explode here on. And women's cricket already, it was gaining so much traction. This ODI World Cup was such, it was followed with such vigor and fervor. I feel this is just the start. And I mean, I'd love to know your thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, I think definitely this is the start of something really, really big. It might be the 1983 moment in a sense, but I don't know if I can compare it to that directly because, back then the game was also much different and we did see the WPL and the Indian women's team. I was just having a discussion. Actually, I was having an argument with someone in the comment section saying that you can, criticize this team for everything and all of that, but you cannot say that they're a bad cricket team objectively. They reached the finals in 2017. Then 2018, they again reached the semi-finals. 2020, they again lost the final to Australia, packed round in the MCG. 2022, they crashed out in the group stage, but that was a very close loss to South Africa, who they now have defeated eventually. And again, 2023, Harmanpreet's bat got stuck. They lost that game. Commonwealth Games before that. Most of these tournaments, they've just had like really bad luck. At some point, they would have just won they would have just won at least one of these tournaments. I honestly feel that. And they're not a bad cricket team. So this was the first thing that I felt. And you're very right in saying that this transcends genders and everything. I feel it transcends sports even. Like,
yeah.
You'll see young people, like the kids that are growing up, they'll want to be inspired in their own sports when they see a victory like this, right? It isn't always just directly about, okay, they are a cricketer, so they'll go and play cricket only. You can be inspired by someone's story and you can apply it to your own lifestyle as well. So yeah. I feel like it's just the stories of all of these cricketers. I mean, for me, I would say probably Jemmy's story was the most special because, she was dropped mid-tournament, as you said, and she's also one of those players that I bagged a bit in the group chats and everything because I really thought that she had that talent in her and, especially she had that ability to bat at number 3. I felt that genuinely because of that ability to rotate, strike and handle pressure. She had that game against Pakistan as well in 2023. There have been games in the WPL I think at times. We've seen her talent, right? There's no question about that. A strike rotation, just that ability to find gaps. I was actually listening to her interview today in the morning. I went to the gym and I was listening to Jemmy's interview with my friends actually at Cricket with JB, right? So they did an interview with Jemmy after the WPL final and I was listening to that and it was just so special to see how in detail they were talking about the game and Jemmy's technical knowledge of the game, how she applies it to various formats, various conditions, and her passion for test cricket as well, obviously, which will be, I think, another thing that could really grow women's test cricket with this, I feel, because a lot of these players, I think they gave the example of Elise Perry, who said that test cricket is still her favorite format, and even Jemmy had the same thoughts. Susie Bates, of course, she was one of those players who could never, get to play a test match, but I mean, at least so far, and maybe if she gets an opportunity to do that, that would be really special, but the point is, I'll be very interested to see what this World Cup win means for women's cricket in general and women's sport in India in general. I think that would be a really interesting trajectory to follow from here on. And I love to read lots of pieces, lots of content will come, I know. And I just finished writing a piece for Best of Cricket as well. Today was about Deepti Sharma and how her leg side game has evolved. Today you could see how dominant she was on the leg side and she was just not playing any dot balls, man. And then she comes and takes 5 wickets as well. I was honestly, at one point I was like, okay, who's going to win player of the match? Is it Shafali or is it going to be Deepti? It could be either of them, right? Because till Laura Wolvaardt was there, I was like, dude, if she's going to bat till the end. And then Taratur shared that stat where he was saying that, she's insane at the death throws. And then it was like, oh no, if she's going to stay till the end, they are going to lose it. Possibly, but no. Then that catch happened. Amanjot finally took that catch and just, I think after that point, the nerves settled down quite a bit. And of course, Nadine de Klerk was there, but she ran out of partners basically towards the end. So I would just also like to say that I felt, really nice to see South Africa's run in this tournament, of course, because of they got 69 all out in the start of the tournament, then 97 all out against Australia. But in the middle, they had a good run. Obviously, against England in the semis, they came back really strong. And for a good chunk of this game, I didn't think they were playing bad. When Wolvaardt and Soon Elise were batting, they were looking pretty good. And then, of course, after that, Derrickson and Laura Wolvaardt was also a pretty scary partnership, to be honest, as an Indian fan. But yeah, just special feelings. I don't think it has sunk in yet properly. I would still say it's up there with one of my favorites, one of my best sporting moments. Obviously, I think if I sit and make a list, it'll take some time, but it's definitely up there in like the top 5, top 10 at least. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this monologue of yours was a mini podcast on its own. So, I mean, I'm happy you got that moment to express all of your feelings. Of course, you've worked so closely on this tournament, both for good areas and best of cricket, that you definitely deserve to kind of, express all of those feelings and kind of
and as a fan also as well. I mean, I would just add that I don't probably have the same level of emotional investment as I would with the men's team, because I haven't grown up seeing the women's team as much. My interest in women's cricket also grew more from 2023 when the WPL came into the picture. I started working for good areas. I think it synced more with that time, and so this win, I really feel good, man. It's just special. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel good for you, and I suppose there's a lot to unpack over there, and we'll get into all of those individual arcs as well, because ultimately, sure, we look at the macro levels, or macro sort of narratives in sport, but it also comes down to those micro and individual stories at a human level, like Jemmy's story, of course. But there's a lot to unpack, and what I'd just like to kind of say in a broader sort of context is that I feel like 20-30 years from now, this moment will be looked upon as an inflection point. Right? Yeah. Like the 2007 T20 World Cup is looked at, for instance, right? Or perhaps even, how maybe, in years to come, Sunrisers Hyderabad's campaign will be looked at, even though they didn't win the IPL, because they're doing something which is changing the sport. And over here, the fanfare is only expected to increase. The investment is only expected to increase. And, more and more women and young girls will take up the sport. So it's a lot going on over here. But let's start to get a bit more, technical, or maybe we should discuss the emotional stories a bit more. Let's talk about Harmanpreet Kaur, right? At the twilight of her career, she had that semi-final versus Australia in 2017, where she scores 171 unbeaten of 100 and something deliveries. It was a really rapid
balls,
knock.
I think.
Yeah, 117 balls
around that. Yeah,
something like that. And then she loses that World Cup final, heartbreak versus England, all that. India have come so close, yet they were so far. Building up to this tournament, there have been so many instances which you pointed out. And, if I was Harmanpreet Kaur, I'd probably retire after this win. I know that news hasn't come in yet, but she's 36. She's played a full career. It would be amazing for her to go out on a high, but that's her decision. It's a great story. Ultimately, when we'll see the Bollywood movie on Harmanpreet, which will happen, of course, we've seen Mithali Raj and Julian Goswami. So it is imminent that there will be movies on this World Cup win and on Harmanpreet Kaur's journey as a cricketer. What a way to kind of, seal or stamp that legend sort of tag on your own personal legacy, because now she'll be remembered for years and years to come, till the end of times, as the first female captain who brought home a World Cup for India, won it at home actually in front of a packed audience. It is a fantastic arc. I know she doesn't even perform in this final, but there are moments where, first, I love the short silly mid-on, right? That was a very interesting bit of field placement for Tasman Brits. And then, of course, when she has that inspired moment, captaincy moment, where she goes full radical out of the box and tosses the ball to Shafali Verma, who strikes twice. She removes Soon Elise and Wolvaardt Kapp. She still had contributions over here. And her own journey, it also deserves some airtime, even if she doesn't perform in the final with the bat.
Yeah, I think it's not even just about the final, man. Of course, in a given day, you will not expect every player to perform in every match, right? So I think that's completely fine. It's not a great innings from her today, but at least even within that, you could say she stuck around for a bit, made that partnership with Deepti, kept the momentum going. Not saying it was a great innings or anything like that, of course, but just building those partnerships. Everybody came in and chipped in, which I think was really handy for India today. And as far as Harmanpreet's career goes, I feel like she has played 5 World Cups now. Her first one was back in 2009. She's come very close, winning. They've almost won the 2017 World Cup. A very close loss. 2020 they reached the finals, lost to an absolutely dominant Australian team. 23 semi-finals where her bat got stuck. I will keep repeating that one again and again. I just saw that and I was like, dude, what is happening? And they just lost that game. That has happened so many times. In this very tournament, that has happened, right? Couple of times, 3 times, where you're like, okay, what is happening, dude? I cannot believe it. How are they losing these games? But, I think the talent was never a question. I think it was just about keeping, your calm in these crunch moments. And more importantly, I think, in today's game, I think the opening partnership obviously set the tone really well.
Yeah.
Shafali, the way she was batting. I think if we want to talk about the game, we can actually do that later on. So not to bother about that. But I had another thing on Harman that I feel.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like she is probably I think she's the best Indian player against Australia in like world events, like all these World Cups, Commonwealth Games, ICC Champions Trophy, T20 World Cups, everything, men and women combined. Because I think the number of times she has performed against Australia, it is just unbelievable, dude. You just can't stop counting after a point. Like, I mean, of course, we know with the men's team we've had so many greats, but Harman against Australia is different gravy completely.
I suppose in that eventual Bollywood movie, we'll see some very cheesy comments or dialogues around that, right? Where Harmanpreet talks about playing Australia because she does have that as a part of her legacy as well. And I'm really chuffed for her. I feel like, she's really written her stars in the written her name in the golden pages of women's cricket history. Yeah. And I mean, she thoroughly deserves it as well. And now she's gotten her due. And also, if she does choose to call it quits, what better way to kind of sign off? It's the perfect way to sign off. And then let's talk about her tactics a bit. We talked about the field placement, silly mid-on for Tasman Brits.
Yeah.
And then also, there's that Shafali Verma radical move. Which, if that had gone wrong, people would have.
You know why she gave it? Did you hear why she gave her the ball?
No.
She was like, today she's having a good day anyways, and I saw her in the field. I was like, okay, if that is actually like the real reason for it, I mean, it's just like, there's no words for it, right? Sometimes just you have a gut feel and you go with it.
Yeah, I think look, she even gets the tactics right. Look, I mean, in a way, if you look at it, South Africa, they played an extra batter. India play an extra bowler in Radha Yadav. Yeah. They make that brave call. So, I mean, they deserve credit for that as well. And I feel like they did a lot of problem solving mid-tournament because when they lost back-to-back games, they probably, went back to the drawing board and rethought a few things and kind of implemented those things, and then the execution also comes off. There's a lot of self-belief as well. So yeah, I mean, I think Jared always mentions how Australian teams, especially in the 99 World Cup, Men's World Cup, and the 2023 Men's World Cup, the ODI World Cups, they were a great problem-solving team. How they weren't perfect, but they ultimately won those tournaments. I feel like that logic applies to India over here as well. And they really got things right when they ultimately started getting things right. And even like we talked about this the other day, that sure, they lost those 3 games, but it was versus all 3 semi-finalists. All 3 games were close. 2 of those games I feel like India really should have won as well. The England and South Africa.
South Africa
ones.
and England.
It wasn't the end of the world. And
of course,
very recently, Indian women's cricket has been professionalized to the degree that it is today. And, a lot of those people who were throwing flack or kind of cursing this team and then questioning why they get paid so much. I never understand that. You put your bodies on the line. You deserve to get paid. Win and loss is a part of the game. And even if India lost this final, I know that it would have left a sour taste, but that doesn't mean that you start hating these girls. They have really represented India wonderfully well. And yeah, this might just be the start of something really, really special, because this will draw more investors and fanfare will build, and their personal brands as cricketers those stocks will rise. They'll be on more billboards, and they're already on billboards. And the WPL was already a bit of an inflection point in the sense that it gives these Indian women cricketers financial security. It gives them the opportunity to play in pressure situations in a highly competitive tournament. It also allows them to share dressing rooms with the best in the business and compete versus the best in the business. So a lot of stuff is already happening, but the turnaround has been magnificent. It's barely been a minute since this started and they've already delivered with the trophy. So sky's the limit really, because right now India are world champions, but they're not the best women's team in the world. That's still Australia. We can say that quite comfortably. The next sort of target would be to become the best team in women's cricket, right?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think Harman mentions it in the post-match that winning has to become a habit now, right? That happens with a lot of teams. When they get that first taste of success, you want more and you want to keep winning. And I think once you break that duck, it's a different feeling altogether. And I mean, of course, it's a bit harsh for South Africa. They couldn't cross the line. They've also come close so many times now. Really felt bad. And I think huge shout out to Laura Wolvaardt. Her conduct as a leader, I think it's impeccable. And she really gives, I don't always compare with men's cricket and all of that, but she really gives me that Kane Williamson sort of vibes where she's a very elegant batter. Her on-field and off-field conduct is really, really good. And, not on field they're very calm as leaders, and that sort of vibe they get at. Of course, their shot making is insane. And today I think it was actually a different sort of innings from Laura Wolvaardt. She was slogging a bit on the leg side, not slogging, but she was trying to forcefully hit on the leg side. I think at one point they showed on the feed.
Sorry,
she had like 45 out of 55 on the leg side. Yeah.
Sorry to interject over here, but did you see the field placement? She had Harman had a short cover and a mid-off, so the cover drive had two fielders stopping it. And we know Laura Wolvaardt is known for the cover drive. But anyway, there's still lots and lots to talk about on this third innings show. We have to discuss all the individual performances as well, and there are other key moments in the game specifically that we need to shed light on. And we'll get into all of those. But before that, we shall be taking a short break. So you're watching Third Innings with Behram and Shayan. We're reviewing India's historic 52-run win over South Africa in the Women's ODI World Cup final. And we'll be back in like half a minute after a short ad break. So go nowhere, because there's still lots and lots of stuff to talk about.
Ross Taylor couldn't see at night or when the clouds were in. Eventually he had to see an eye specialist who would fix his eyesight. In the 2 years before the change, he still averaged more than 50 in international cricket. The top level of batting talent can basically see in the dark. That is who we are talking about in our new book, The Art of Batting. Head over and order your copy today.
Welcome back to Third Innings Live. You guys are with Behram and Shayan, and we are currently reviewing India's monumental feat. They've won the ODI World Cup or any sort of ICC trophy in women's cricket for the first time. And we've talked about the, overarching arcs and generic stuff thus far. And I want to get into, the individual performances as well, Shayan. But before that, I want to kind of come from a South African perspective for just a minute, right?
Exactly.
They actually won the toss, which was a big toss to win because D.Y. Patil got a lot of dew in that semi-final. But because it had rained so much, the dew factor wasn't as relevant in this big final. So a good toss to lose for India. And what was an advantage for South Africa turned into a bit of a disadvantage, even though I would have also chased given the dew that we had seen. So I don't think that was a major issue. But then South Africa, they dropped 4 catches. I know one of them is barely a dropped catch, the one that Marazan dropped when Deepti played the bat straight to her. Played the ball straight to her. That just was like a fingertip sort of save by Marazan. But overall, if I look at it, Shafali Verma dropped on 56 by Annika Bosch, who, by the way, drops 2 catches and scores a silver, not a silver, but a 6-ball duck in this final. Terrible final for her. Heartfelt, moments over there, I suppose, because no one wants to kind of shit the bed so hard, but 2 dropped catches and a 6-ball duck is bad.
It's part of sport, I think.
It is a part of sport, ultimately. But 56 was Shafali's score when Annika Bosch drops her. Then Annika later drops Richa Ghosh on 32. She only scores 2 more runs, so no biggie. But then Deepti, first that half chance or quarter chance that Marazan Kapp lets go off her own bowling when Deepti was on 35. And then when she was on 38, Laura Wolvaardt, of all people, one of the best fielders in the world, she lets one, kind of go down. And she probably takes the catch at the tournament, early in the tournament as well, right? Like when that one-handed take. So if you're South African, I mean, this wasn't a choke. By no means was it a choke because they were never well and truly, ahead in this game.
Not a choke.
And they played the extra bowler. If your best bowler is Ayabonga Khaka with 3 for 58 in 9 overs, you didn't do a great job, even though they kind of recover well to restrict India to 298 for 7. But still, there are other reasons. They didn't lose this game because of the dropped catches. India ultimately, they deserve due credit for taking it deep. And they also dropped 3 catches, right? Like Deepti drops... what's her name? Annery Dirksen on 24. And then there was those back-to-back drop moments in Renuka's over right towards the
end. That was a bit
really
funny towards the end.
So even though India also made mistakes, South Africa will be really ruining those missed opportunities because they needed to be at their A game or bring their A game forward, had to make minimal mistakes and play the better cricket. And they'd kind of be feeling it tonight because, it was right there for the taking, the World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those opportunities, they'll definitely rue those. And I think with the ball, they were able to pull off a decentish comeback. Not great or anything, but when Shafali and Jimmy were batting, they were 166 for 1. I think after it was 30 overs, I had predicted they'll make 320 to 325, but they fell I think around 20, 25, 30, 25-ish runs short of that. So.
They were 166 for 1 at one point at a very
Exactly.
good scoring rate. So I thought 350 was on the cards, and bare minimum they should have gotten to 320. They don't get there, so I feel like they did leave a few runs out on the field, but then the due never came, and a final adds its own pressure. You know, you add 20 runs just for the final, for instance, right? So there was that, and then if people say that they played it safe by playing the extra batter, which frontline bowler got into the team, right? Like, it's not like they were spoilt for choice. Their best bowlers were already playing. Wolvaardt and Kapp has a final to forget as well. Failed with the ball.
She didn't get
failed with the
swing
bat.
early on, which was I think the
Yes.
key factor in all of this, because we know how lethal she is early on. And in fact, Ayabanga Khaka, I think Bish mentioned on comms that she was getting around 2.5 degrees of swing, something around that. And but that was the big difference. Like Marizan was only around 1.1. So that definitely played a part. I thought her second spell was still okay, but then Deepti eventually, ended up hitting a 6, and then they had that 7-over run where her and Harman made a few quick runs and, got the momentum back in India's favor. Then Amanjot also was like, okay, not too great. I think the only purpose would have been maybe you don't want to get Richa Ghosh in too early, and what if she gets out, then who is going to score runs for you at the back end? Although I think that you could argue the other way as well and say maybe they should have promoted Richa up the order, but I think that was fine. I saw a few people, I think they were critical of Deepti's innings, but I didn't get it, to be honest. Even at the back end, she didn't take that much strike. She was rotating strike quite comfortably. I know she didn't get boundaries towards the end, a lot of boundaries, but that is okay. I think part and parcel of the game, in the sense that she was still taking over strike quite comfortably. And it was that 31 to 40 overs period where Harman wasn't scoring that fast, but it was Deepti who was getting boundaries also at times. But most importantly, she was just not staying on strike. It was very hard to keep her on strike, and she was scoring so much on the onside that it has been a feature of her game that has evolved more recently. I think in 2025 onwards, so from the numbers that I was looking at, she scores both against pace and spin. She is more dominant on the onside, and against pace she still gets out on the leg side a bit, but against spin she doesn't even get out and she scores fast. On the offside she's a bit slower, and so that's the sort of makeup that we have with her. But even then, a player of her talent coming in at number 6, number 7, and she's had a brilliant year in one-day cricket this year, averaging over 50, striking at around 100. So I don't really think there was too much to be worried about there, and it was a good innings according to me. It was a good innings. I'm not saying it was an all-timer or anything. It was a good innings, but with that 5-wicket haul, it becomes an all-timer, I think, for me.
I mean, we'll talk about it. I have it in my points, but just a bit more on South Africa, because obviously the show is going to be all about India after that. Look, they had their opportunities. They got a few things wrong. And yes, 299 runs in a final is a lot of runs to chase, especially versus, a better team who are also the home team and have got like 50,000 people backing them there in the stadium. So that's a lot of pressure. And even though they dropped 4 catches or whatever, like someone has mentioned, India also dropped 3. And then look at the commitment levels in the field from both teams, right? The way they were throwing themselves around, both South Africa and India, they stopped so many runs. Like if the catching wasn't great, the ground fielding was also honestly like it was
even the run out, Amanjot's run out of
and those are the minor moments which change the game, which people will forget. People ultimately from years from now, when they will look at scorecards, they won't think of Amanjot Kaur, but whoever watched this final will remember her contributions, right? That run out of Tasman Brits. We know Tasman Brits. When she gets to 20 or something, you're always fearing she's going to get 100. And even though she was stuck at the start, lots of dot balls, then she started smacking the ball down the ground. And specifically down the ground, which is her area of strength. She started doing well in that run out. Literally, like it kind of halted South Africa's progress, because I think they did really well at the start, especially versus Renuka in that new ball spell where she was getting the ball to swing a mile, and she always gets unlucky that the ball swings too much that she kind of misses out on those LBW
we talk
opportunities.
about that all the time.
But it's that Amanjot run out at the start to dismiss Tasman Brits, and for me, I know that Nadine de Klerk was batting till the end, but the real turning point, the point where India win this final, is when Amanjot makes that catch stick. Laura Wolvaart's catch, she juggles the ball twice. Somehow she latches onto that catch on third attempt. And, that run out and that catch alone, it's a great performance just in the field that it should be remembered. And it does deserve a lot of airtime, right? People will talk about Shafali's wickets. They might forget about Amanjot Kaur in the field.
No, I agree with you. And I think that catch was when I celebrated the hardest because I was very scared. I was talking to my dad and I was like, dude, if Laura Wolvaardt is going to play till the end, she's going to win them. She's going to win them this game until and unless she runs out of partners because of how good she is at the death overs and an experienced player like her. It was not like the required run, it was out of control or anything like that. Of course, India was still ahead in the game. And this comes back to what we were saying when they were 150 for 5 or something, and you were like, now this game is over. I was like, dude, what are you saying? Shut up. I cannot believe what you're saying. Just have you seen them bat till number 9? What are you saying, man?
I knew that you would bring this up, of course, because you mentioned it then as well. I felt like I had kind of hit a nerve and now you were just really pissed at me. But it's funny how there's this comment over here, which is a super chat, so we had to take it anyway. And it seems like an opportune moment to discuss this because corner taken quickly. Yeah. Origi says, sending Jafta at 6 instead of de Klerk lost them the game, brain dead decision. They've been doing this throughout. Now, for me, no disrespect to Jafta. She represents her country, played a World Cup final, but if I had to kind of rate her, she is Richa Ghosh's keeping combined with Sidra Nawaz's batting. So I don't really rate her that much. And I also have perennially felt this, that they send her, a bit too high. Like for me, Annery Dirksen, Nadine de Klerk, Chloe Tryon, they're all better batters. They all deserve to bat ahead of her. I don't think that's why they lost this game, by the way, corner taken quickly. They lost this game because of other reasons. Ultimately, it was too, steep a task to chase down 299. Yeah. But then again, this is something that I feel, I feel like this is something that South Africa have gotten wrong throughout. Like if you remember in the semi-final when they defeat England, they scored 319 for 7 in their 50 overs in the first innings, but they waste Nadine de Klerk entirely. I don't think it's a great idea to have her slotted in at number 9. So I feel whilst this isn't what lost them the final, South Africa, but I still feel corner taken quickly is onto something over here. It does make sense.
Yeah, I completely agree with this, I think. She when I've seen her bat Jafta, I think she does look a bit enterprising, she's moving around the crease, trying to play a few funky shots. But I think it's fair, the numbers don't really back up, that the fact that she should be batting at number 6 ahead of some of these other players. But I think it's a bit of a mistake by them tactically, which they've probably made all tournament, as you mentioned. But I think they might have a look at it and go, okay, they could take another decision in the years to come,
I mean, I really do feel for South Africa because, look, they've played back-to-back T20 World Cup finals in women's cricket. They've lost both of them. The men's team lost the T20 World Cup final. They choked over there. Today wasn't a choke, even though they've lost another final and they can't seem to win a World Cup for the life of them, which is like, I can feel the pain of South African fans over there. Definitely kind of empathize with them. But ultimately, I feel like the team deserves to be celebrated. This was not a joke by any stretch of the imagination. People conveniently throw off that or, use that word and social media goes rampant. 2024 World Cup final was a choke. I would say that they should have won because a choke by definition is when you are well ahead in the game and you are in a winning position, you bottle the game. They didn't bottle this game. They were outclassed, they were outplayed and they lost a normal game of cricket.
I think what happens is sometimes people, whenever you lose a knockout game, it doesn't matter whether it's a close loss or a bad loss. People just feel like, okay, you've lost another knockout, so you are a choker. I think that is the narrative that sort of goes, but I don't really think that makes sense to me.
Lazy as fuck narrative. It's a weak narrative, and I feel
it is.
Look, had India lost this final, would you have turned on them? That doesn't make any sense. These two teams were the best two teams in this given tournament, right? Based on their performances and how far they reached. So I feel like you need to celebrate both those teams, and this is not a moment to throw shade on South Africa. This is a moment to celebrate India and also celebrate the efforts of South Africa. In fact, if anything, Laura Wolvaardt is the anti-choker, right? She is the Wolf of Cape Town. Yeah, she scores back-to-back hundreds in World Cup knockout games. No single female batter has scored more runs in a single edition.
Healy has done it in 2022. Yeah,
no. I'm saying she must have done this. She must have completed this particular feat, hundreds in both knockout games, but no other female batter in the history of women's cricket or women's ODI World Cup cricket has scored more runs in a single edition than Laura Wolvaardt this tournament. So she has that record. She gets back-to-back tons as captain, in the semi-final and the final. And then also she accumulated in the semi-final and then went nuts in the death overs. Over here, she is not accumulating, bro. She scores her 50 of 45 balls, her 100 of 96 deliveries. And I mean, the way she kind of batted outside her comfort zone today with that offside field packed, she cannot cover drive. Imagine how frustrating that must have been. And now she's trying to hack the ball on the leg side and still manages to do that effectively. Her 101 of 98 will go down as one of the better knocks in any World Cup final. Unfortunately, it's come in a losing cause. But the Wolf of Cape Town needs to be celebrated. What a special player. She's already crossed the 5,000 run mark in ODI cricket. She's young. She is going to go down as one of the best batters to ever play. In cricket, especially when it comes to women's cricket. She's a delight to watch. I love the comparison that you drew with Kane Williamson, because she's composed.
That's what I thought today during the
she's
match.
chill. And she seems to be that sort of a leader that everyone loves to get behind, and she's a likable character. But most importantly, she's skillful. She's so aesthetically brilliant to watch, and she took that responsibility, or shouldered that responsibility, that I'm going to get my team, into winning positions, and she won that semi-final for them. She did extremely well versus India in this final, and what a special player that we have gotten to witness in this Women's World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, the sky is the limit for her, dude. Like, she's 26. She already has 5,000 ODI runs. That is just insane stuff, honestly. You don't even see that a lot in men's cricket, where we see so many more games being played. So to do it in women's cricket, I think it's an even bigger achievement. And she is probably already one of the greatest ODI batters in women's cricket of all time. She's not at the level of, say, a Meg Lanning, or, she's probably not as high. She's probably not as good as Lanning.
She could be one day. You never know.
She could be. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Because, this might be her peak.
Yeah, I mean,
2 years, 3 years, who knows?
Her peak has been ongoing for a while. And what I loved today was that, she was like, okay, we need some runs over here. We can't, not make use of this power play. Tasman is kind of stuck. She's playing too many dot balls.
Exactly.
I'm going to break the shackles. And she tries unconventional stuff, which is not really Laura Wolvaardt coded. And she succeeds. So I was really, really impressed, because these were two different kinds of hundreds, and you can kind of assess them in your own way. But she didn't accumulate. She's known as an accumulator. So she stepped up. And if she's ended up on the losing side, that doesn't mean this was a shit knock. This was still a class knock.
No, of course. I think I anyways don't really rate innings based on, how the end result. I think it has to depend on the context of how much you have tried as yours, compared to your teammates. How much better have you done to put your team in a winning position, or, at least close to that? So I think that she did brilliantly even today. As I said, as an Indian fan, I was very afraid of her. And, another reason why I brought the Kane Williamson parallel is because she was killing Indian fans' hopes with kindness, That's what happens with these sort of players, with these touch and class players, right? But I think if you contrast that with someone like an Alyssa Healy or a Travis Head, they will just destroy your bowlers. They will just go hell for the leather, and they will just, it won't even take that much time. I honestly still think if Laura batted till the end, anything could have happened. She might have just pulled this off. We saw what she did in the last game, right? It wasn't out of reach by any stretch, I thought. But
I mean, she didn't go berserk up and over mid-wicket in this game like she did in the semi-final. I suppose that's one difference.
But different context, much different context. This was chasing.
Much different context.
You had to preserve your wicket also for a longer time. That time you had to go for it at the death. So I think it just shows her range. And, I think relatively her strike rate, I'm not saying in the sense that it's bad or anything like that, but she hasn't been say a Smriti Mandhana, or maybe even a Nat Silverbrunt level player in that regard, where, she's striking consistently above 90 or in the hundreds around that. She's, I think, more in the 80s, but if she plays the way she has in these two knockout games, as I said, the sky is the limit. And
I mean,
let's see what happens.
She's definitely unlocked a new gear over here, and I really hope to see Laura Wolvaardt achieve even bigger things in her career, because there's still a lot of it left, and she is one of the finest batters that South Africa have produced across genders, I would like to say. And of course, we do have a couple of really, really important Indian performances to discuss, but we've also got another super chat. So, corner taken quickly with another one. He asks, or she asks, or they asks, I have no idea what gender corner taker quickly is, but the question is that why doesn't South Africa's right-handed batters, they sweep or reverse sweep against left-arm spin? Seems like a recipe for disaster in middle overs. Oh, so why do they do that? I mean, Sunelise was doing it quite well, actually. I felt that she was really sweeping the ball right out of the screws. It is slightly risky
Brits
because
can sweep, I think. Okay, no, I think Brits is a bit bad at it at times. No, she's not. She can't play the reverse that well. She was looking very uncomfortable playing the reverse, I think, in one of these games.
Yeah.
Was it the last game?
Not sure. Yeah, but if you reverse sweep slow left armers, that's still if you are really good at the reverse sweep, that's a low risk shot because you're hitting with the spin. When you try to sweep conventionally, it brings the top edge into play, and that is slightly risky. But also, truth be told, apart from Sri Charani, which spinner generated a lot of turn on the surface, right? Because these were very good batting conditions. Slightly sticky, but very good batting conditions. And the only two bowlers who really did well, I know Deepti gets wickets, but like in terms of purchase, Renuka got a lot of lateral movement, swinging the ball inside, towards, the pads of the right-handed batters. And then, of course, Sri Charani does get a lot of turn, right? She does get considerable amount of turn. Other than that, I feel like, look, you can nitpick on the ploy, but sweeping is looked upon as that kind of shot, which is a release shot, or we're under pressure. Let's kind of release some pressure and let's take a chance. So I don't think that it's a recipe for disaster if you're good at it.
Yeah. No, I think I definitely feel like with South Africa, from whatever numbers I've looked at, they're a bit over-reliant on, obviously Laura Wolvaardt and Tasman Brits, and then Marizan Cup when it comes to playing spin, because I think their other batters have from time to time collapsed against spin in particular, and I think they've been bothered by left arm finger spin. They've been bothered by leg spin as well. Alana King obviously took that 7-wicket haul, but in a previous series also where they played each other in South Africa and Australia, then also Alana King had the better of them. So this has been a bit of a trend. Whenever they've collapsed, it's mostly been due to spin, and so to quite an extent, I think we can say that happened today as well, right? There were two collapses essentially in this innings. So I know they didn't choke in this game, but they definitely had two collapses where if they carried on in the from the situation that they were in, things could have been different. But both times it was spin, right? Shafali first of all, and absolutely rank off spin. Like off spin is cricket's rubbish skill.
I mean,
I say that as a leg spinner. So
it could be me bowling out there, right? Like, I think that's fair, because it's not
your
a job.
day. It's your day, and I mean,
absolutely.
of course, it still takes to still take that catch. Cotton bowl, they don't come easy, and you have to take your chances and down the leg side, whatever. Like this is cricket, dude, for you. And huge credit to Harman, huge credit to Shafali for also ultimately stepping up, because even the other deliveries, they were not hitting a lot, right? I think she was like 2 for 17 in 5 overs. I know it wasn't great bowling or anything, but she was getting bounced at times. The ball was also turning at times, so it was okay.
I mean, look, spin bowling is India's strength, but of course now we are 41 minutes in. We are nearly at 1,000 concurrent viewers, and I think this is a perfect sort of period or time to kind of start talking about the great performers from India in this World Cup final. But before that, we'll be taking another short break. So keep watching third innings. We'll be back in like half a minute, but go nowhere, because of course you want to listen what Shayan and I have to say about Shafali and Deepti in particular. So be back in half a minute. And see you. You're watching third innings. We'll be back right away.
Brian Lara used pot plants to work on his placement. John Wright glued his glove to his bat. Sachin Tendulkar dug up practice pitches. Tatenda Taibu cut the top off his bat. Claire Taylor used a hockey grip. Steve Smith was from tennis. Dean Jones would call phantom runs. And Victor Trumper turned the nets into a war zone to survive. The best batters in the world do whatever they have to make runs. We have told their stories in our new book, The Art of Batting.
Welcome back to Third Innings Live. You guys are with Behram and Shayan, and we are reviewing India's historic World Cup final win over South Africa in Navi Mumbai DY Patil Stadium. They finally have some piece of silverware in women's cricket, ICC silverware, and it's a massive, massive day. 1,004 of you are with us, and it is time that we discuss India's best performers. Let's start off with Shafali Verma, of course. Shayan, she wasn't even a part of the squad 6 days ago. She was an injury replacement for Pratika Rawal. And come final, I know she has a weak game in the semi-final. She has the best game of her life. And I don't say that kindly. I mean, I'm not being lenient over here. She literally has the best game of her life. First of all, when we think of Shafali Verma, we think of explosive runs, high intent or high impact batting with a lot of impetus, and she delivers. 49 ball 50 for her, which was great, and it kind of sets the tone. Good on Smriti as well to kind of hold the fort at the other end. I know she's dismissed for 45, but that opening stand does count for a lot. 104 or 106 runs, something like that. So after she gets to a 49 ball 50, Shafali is dropped on 56, no fault of her own. She was aggressing, and it's on Annika Bosch. And what really intrigues me is not just that she wasn't a part of the squad and she just came in here as an injury replacement, last-minute injury replacement, but also she hadn't scored a half century in ODI cricket in 3 years. That's insane, right? Also, she ultimately ends up with 87 of 78, which is a very, very important knock. It is the best batting knock from India, at least in this final, and overall as well, because it comes in a winning, effort. So 87 of 78 with the bat, used her feet extremely well versus both pace and spin. That was kind of the hallmark of her innings.
Exactly.
And then she comes in as a radical bowling change in the second innings after the 20 over mark. And it was really insane how within 7 deliveries, she had already removed, both of Sunil and Marizan Kapp. She ends up with 2 for 36 and 7 overs, which are also her best bowling figures ever in ODI cricket. She'd only taken 1 wicket prior to this. Now she has 3. 2 for 36 and 7 overs, and her 87 of 78 was her highest score ever in ODIs as well. What a time to get it when the stakes have never been higher, And I mean, it's as big as an occasion as she could have picked, and that tells you that Shafali Verma is indeed a special, special player. We knew always that she was a prodigy, but the way she has delivered and the fashion in which she has delivered on the big stage, I mean, she is player of the match deservedly.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And it's now a problem of plenty for India in a way, because when Pratika comes back, how are they going to sort out all of these things? That's what I was talking about at the time. And I mean, the opening partnership that Smriti and Pratika had all tournament was not easy to replace that at all by any means, and especially when I think in the last games, she hit a couple of boundaries and got out early. It was fine. Like, she's a high intent player. That can happen in a big game. They were chasing a big target. Obviously, I mean, it was not a great innings or anything like that. Nobody's going to say 10 of 5 is like, if she made 20 of 10, we could probably still say, okay, this is a high intent inning. 10 of 5 is probably too low for even an intent merchant like Varun, right?
Exactly. I was just going to say that 10 of 5 might not even pass the Varun barometer. And that's a very low barometer. Exactly. Varun would lose his marbles on 16 of 8. He'd be like, yes, amazing, love it. But yeah, I mean, look, she puts that effort behind her. She comes into a big final. She plays Smriti's role, and Smriti goes into Pratika Raval mode. I loved that little shuffle. And then just the way of belligerence with which she attacks. She's so brash, so brazen with respect to the way she bats, right? I mean, she really takes the opposition team on and exerts heaps of pressure. And 87 of 78 is an amazing effort, Not to mention the bowling effort, of course, 7 balls, 2 wickets. The 36 runs come later. She had taken 2 for like 2 or something before that, right? So, I mean, you cannot ask for a better performance from a player who would not even in her wildest dreams have imagined that I'll be playing this World Cup final. She provides that, Midas touch, and she does not put a foot wrong with bat or ball. Goated stuff from a really young cricketer who has an entire career right in front of her. Yeah,
it's literally like a movie script, right? You want to be in a situation like this. You dream of a situation like this. It's a fever dream. You're nowhere in the frame for the team selection. You're doing well in your domestic cricket and everything. Obviously, the talent is undeniable. Year in year, I see her in the WPL. He's just taking on bowlers for fun. So that talent is never the issue. But I think one day cricket, definitely even her strike rate in ODIs was not that high. I think she was averaging like 23 and striking at 83, something around that. But that was a bit of a problem because now and then when India had someone of Pratika Raval's quality who had a strike rate issue. I mean, lots of people had issues with the strike rate. At least I wouldn't say I had too many of them. At least apart from like this little period of the game where I had an issue with her and Harleen batting together because that would slow things down a lot. But apart from that, I thought you need runs. Yes. Runs are the biggest currency in this format, even now.
And it's more pertinent in women's ODIs, I feel. Like, strike rate is not that big a factor in women's ODIs.
Exactly. Having this That's what I've learned this entire tournament, covering it with Tarutar and, speaking to a lot of people. And I think people always bring up this strike rate. That strike rate, like, guys, calm down. You have to see what the batting lineup is, who's going to come in next. You have to make runs. 300 is not so common even now in the women's game. Of course, we've seen it a lot now.
I feel like Australia have kind of unlocked a different sort of gear, and they're playing ODI cricket in a completely different manner. But if you're any other team, then I feel like strike rate isn't that pertinent. So Pratika Raval is also a world champion, by the way. Don't forget her. She was the second highest.
Dude, she didn't get a medal though. I was so annoyed about this. You know what? So I was thinking that. So I had this question since like before the final. Okay, I was thinking about whether because she is not in the squad now, Shafali has replaced her. Is Pratika Raval going to be a world champion after they win it or not? So this was bothering me for a long time. I was like, okay, I will not say it now. I will say it after it happens. Then when I asked, and Tarutar was like, of course she is a world champion, dude. What are you talking about? And then when they named all the players, she was not on it. Then I told Tarutar, okay, dude, she is not there.
I'm sure they're going to sort that out, and she's going to get her medal because in the round robin stage,
she's going to hold the trophy. It doesn't matter.
in the group stages, at least, she was the second highest scorer of the tournament.
Yeah.
And she was doing really well. And she's piled up a mountain of runs in 2025. And she hasn't even debuted that, early. Like, I think she debuted in December
But
2024.
Chinmay says, December 24. Chinmay says she got the medal. I am not so sure, honestly. I didn't see, because when they listed out the names, I didn't see her. I didn't hear her name, honestly speaking. Maybe they did it separately or something like that. I could be wrong. So apologies for that if I am wrong.
I'm not
She
certain
was
at
on the
all.
ground.
Yeah. I didn't.
She was on the ground. I
this-
saw all of that. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't catch the celebrations because
No,
as soon as
you
that
had the
final
other live, of
ended,
course.
yeah, I had another live show. So I've been talking now on this final for like 2 hours and 30 minutes, but there's still other stuff to talk about. We've discussed Shafali, we've discussed Pratika.
Yeah,
Rawal.
this I saw. She was on a wheelchair. I saw all of that. Like, she came in that full Stephen Hawking vibe, dude.
I saw Rohit as well. He'll be happy that
Yeah,
he's
Rohit
seen
was there,
India,
Sachin was there. course.
lift that trophy once again, a World Cup trophy in Mumbai, because he saw it in 2011 when he was out of the team. He couldn't do it in 2023, which I know that keeps him up at night. And now he's finally seen the women kind of break those shackles and achieve that feat. So good on him that he was there.
So
Sachin
I
was
will
there
bring
as
up
well.
another thing on Shafali's innings. I kind of cut off, started talking about other topics. But
Yeah.
what really impressed me, I think DK also mentioned this on comms, that there was this 19 ball period where she did not play a single dot ball. She just kept rotating strike or hitting boundaries. Like, that is the dream version, that is exactly what you want from a player of that caliber. And ultimately, that's what was happening. That in a way, she was batting like Smriti, and Smriti was, hitting boundaries, but she was playing a few dots. Early on, she was a bit circumspect also, which makes sense. You don't want to throw your wicket away to Mares and Kapp or, in a World Cup final. That just shatters your morale like anything, I feel. That's what happened with England, right? Once you're down, like 2-3 down early, you're just playing catch up, dude, honestly speaking, in knockouts. So you have to be a bit smart. Even if you remember the 23 World Cup final, I know India lost and everything. I think even Rohit starts like blasting and everything a little later. And even Travis Head, he was also struggling initially. So you have to take your time a bit, I feel, in these big games. And,
I mean,
assess the situation and
you've
pick the right
got
balls to hit.
You've got to soak in the pressure as well. I mean, it's a World Cup
Exactly.
final. You're in front of 50,000 of your own fans.
Yeah.
The weight of all those expectations. And how cutthroat fans can be. A lot of people aren't actual fans such that they'll stick with the team in good times and bad. A lot of these people are just glory hunters, where they will desert you the minute you lose, even if it's in a final, which is very relevant for all fans. I'm not even kind of segmenting people over here. This is true in sport. Right?
Agreed.
Perhaps a bit more pertinent in the subcontinent, but still true for all
I
sport.
don't think so. No, it's there. I think anywhere, wherever a sport is followed a lot, you see English football, dude.
Yeah,
what sort of
true.
reactions happen there whenever they lose a
No, but
tournament,
like, for instance, take Croatian football, right? Like, they're happy playing the final. So it is slightly different.
That is different. That's like New Zealand cricket in a way, no? So
I
they will.
suppose, yeah, it is.
That's a
fair
different sort of a
example.
culture, maybe,
Yeah.
England,
Fair.
India, Brazil, where you have these crazy fandoms
Yeah.
and.
Yeah.
Where so many people are invested, even the casuals get invested when it's a big tournament. People around you will start asking, okay, are you going to watch this game and everything, all of that. So I think tomorrow is going to be fun when I go out and meet other people. They'll be like,
that's
congratulations,
going to be a thing
congratulations.
for you. Everyone's
That will
going to
be
be
nice.
everyone's going to be hugging you. So that'll be fun for you. And I suppose different sporting cultures, they differ in many different ways. And I've said differ now like 4 times, so I should move on from this. But yeah, I think that this is going to be one of those moments which, maybe even 100 years from now, because it's the first. You never know, India might, and they probably will, win a lot of other silverware in women's cricket. But the first one always remains special. For India, 83 will always hold a special place.
Always.
For Pakistan, for instance, 92 will always be 92.
Yeah.
And similarly, there are other
96
big
Sri Lanka.
examples. 96 Sri Lanka.
That is another great
2014
story, man.
2014 will never hit the same, for instance.
Never,
right?
never. It's not the same. First of all,
for-
50 over just hits different, dude. That trophy, those vibes, the fanfare around it. T20 World Cup is never going to be the same, dude. Call me a nostalgia merchant. I don't care about it.
Yes, but
it is the truth.
Even though we are not quite the same generation, but we are relatively the same generation. 10 years below me and 10 years above me, I would say that it's more or less the same generation. The thing is that we feel this way. I'm with you. ODI World Cup, bigger prestige, harder tournament to win, completely with you. But 25, 30 years from now, maybe that perception changes. T20 cricket
maybe.
is
Who knows
is
how
kind
the
of,
sport goes. All those
there's a
things
proliferation
are
of
hard to say right
T20
now.
cricket. Yeah, so maybe we'll talk about this in 25 years. Jared is a firm believer that this might change. He thinks ODIs will die anyway. But I mean, we'll see how things kind of unfold. Anyway, we've saved the best for last, I suppose, because Shafali Verma may be player of the final, but Deepti Sharma was the player of the tournament. She's pulled off a Yuvraj, right? Yuvraj 2011.
Zulu
20.
even, to quite an
Zulu
extent.
even. Look, 20 wickets, the leading wicket taker in this ODI World Cup, and then 215 clutch runs. Every single time her runs were crucial. She had an average of 30 in this World Cup at a strike rate of 90. I know she's dropped twice, and maybe not twice, maybe once, because Wolvaardt Kapp's catch was difficult. But on 35 and 38, she's dropped. Ultimately scores a runner ball 58. And then after that, she comes back and takes 5 for 39 with the ball, which is flat out ridiculous. I feel like, people will say that, oh, she has arrived or whatever. She has been there for a long time. She's been a proper performer for this team over the years. She's unlocked a new gear herself. And as you said, her leg side play has evolved. And this is her best version. I love to see all-rounders apply their craft, and Deepti Sharma absolutely owned this World Cup, deserving player of the tournament. Nadine de Klerk was another option, Ash Gardner, perhaps Laura Wolvaardt. But I feel like ultimately what Deepti Sharma has accomplished over here, she is the couple / Yuvraj for India right now, and she definitely deserves all of that praise, because what a performance every single time, either with the bat or with the ball. Even though she dropped that catch of Annery Dirksen on 24, she was the one who cleaned her up later for 35. She basically yorked her. So, Debanjan has a very pertinent comment over here who says, asks, what changed for Deepti? Her batting strike rate changed from 65 to 95.81 in the last year. Average also increased from 35 to 44. Is it the pitches, the WPL, or intent, or everything combined? I suppose, Shayan, you can take it away, because you've been looking or deep diving into this for quite a while now.
Today I was actually the last piece that I did for Best of Cricket for this, for the match day pieces that I was doing for them. So it was mainly that the fact that her leg side play becomes even more elite. She starts playing a lot more on the leg side, both against pace and spin, and she starts scoring faster of both. Against pace, it does become a bit more of a risky thing where sometimes she slogs the ball and gets out. But I think it's that ability to, sweep the ball really well, first of all. She can score quickly from the sweep, and she doesn't get out playing it that often either. So that is one thing. That is on the front foot, right? She'll sweep on the front foot and consistently get runs from that at a quickish speed, and not really have much of a problem with that, and play it a lot compared to even someone like, I think Jemmy was second. I think Sidra Amin was third, if I'm not wrong, in the broadcast thing that they were showing since 2022 or something like that. So it's her ability to sweep, but also when she goes on the back foot, she can work the ball around quite well. She has that ability to. I know she's not a great sprinter between the wickets, but she has still improved her non-boundary strike rate quite a bit in this last year, in 2025 essentially, where to the point where early on in the tournament I was even thinking that she could be a left field option for number 3 at times, when Smriti gets out. If you want to maintain that left-right combination in a way, instead of sending Harleen and Pratika together where they might bat together and bat a bit slow, you might be better off considering someone like a Jemmy who's going to run well between the wickets, or a Deepti who is a left-hander and has shown clear ability to play spin bowling quite well. So I think that's my read on it. Of course, I wouldn't claim to be an expert on this, because most of the cricket that I have followed is also from the WPL and from the Women's World Cup. And apart from that, I've seen highlights, I've seen stuff on NV Play, ball by ball, whatever access I have through Best of Cricket as well, whatever I can look at. It's a bit more like that, but it's definitely interesting. There's lots of interesting trends coming up. I keep looking at these numbers, and another one was obviously where Smriti's. I did a piece on that early in the tournament, where she just becomes that next level batter. She was always supposed to be this good, this next. They called her. I think they compared her with Saurav Ganguly because they both had an offside player to die for. But now Smriti is so good on the leg side, dude. Like, you just see her. You just see her pull the ball. She can slog sweep as well. She can sweep as well if required. Not that much, but that she has a pretty good gameplay. And it's that back behind square on the offside region which she has really mastered in this tournament, and sadly gets out to that today. But I think there's lots of interesting trends in women's cricket if people just watch the game more closely, cut out all the bullshit, and actually try to follow it from a more holistic cricketing perspective. So it's really interesting actually. And you should actually go and follow some of these people like Hari Govind, for example. He is, I think, the best cricket writer right now for women's cricket. If you want to read more of this technical analysis and everything. No, he's not paid me, guys. There's nothing like that. He's just a good friend of mine, but he's a really good writer. And if you read what he's talking about the women's game from an analytical perspective, it will improve how you think about the game, I feel, in women's cricket.
I mean, there's lots of great content out there. Specifically, when you talk about women's cricket, I feel like you guys at Best of Cricket, Tarutar and team, they really covered this tournament amazingly well. And I suppose
huge shout out to him as well for getting the team together and all of that.
I hope that Debanjan's answer has been answered by you, or question has been answered by you, sorry, because you were quite elaborate. And we've got another super chat, a generous one. So thank you, Chico Roy.
Thank you.
He asks, Behram and Shayan just asked Robbie and Jared this. Laura ran out of partners, but India in their innings had Deepti hit a bit more when Harman was farming, and then Deepti farmed when Richa went hard. Are these team instructions or natural? These are definitely team instructions. These are plans executed to the T. We talked about the role reversal for Smriti Mandana. She went into Pratika Rawal mode, and Shafali was doing what Smriti does. Similarly, when you know that your captain is struggling a bit, I think Deepti became the accelerator specifically to take pressure off of Harmanpreet. And the Har monster, might have had a poor day.
And she did it very safely, right? Just knocking the ball around comfortably, finding those singles.
But then again, there's a lot more happening behind the scenes. I think any team, you don't even have to be a genius to figure out that if Richa Ghosh has come out to bat, you let her do the ball striking because she's just so amazing at it. I mean, Richa Ghosh up and over the covers for 6 is a repeat sort of video in my head now. I close my eyes and I see Richa Ghosh go big over the covers and slam a 6.
Dude, and also those two boundaries of Ash Gardner in the last semi-final in that cow corner region.
She killed it.
I'm not forgetting those either.
She killed that chase, and today as well, she is the one who kind of rescues India towards the end in terms of strike rate, because
brilliant tournament for her.
298 was a good total in hindsight, definitely.
Yeah, it was a good
even
total,
though South Africa were in the game, but still, you'd back India to kind of defend that total. Richa Ghosh, I mean, 34 of 24 tonight. She had a wonderful game versus South Africa, her best game of the tournament in the group stages. And I feel like she was under pressure. She was out of form. The way she's delivered in this tournament, it started with the Pakistan game, right? That's where it starts. And she never really looked back. She is a monster of a hitter. What a clean striker of the ball. And she's also a very, very, important cog in this well-oiled machine that is India's women's cricket team. You've got to give her dues as well.
Yeah. And I think I'm also lucky to have seen her play live right in front of my eyes in Lucknow when I went for this WPL game where she actually played a bit of a blinder. So she has shown that ability to play those crazy knocks from time and time, and she is also very young. You know that the sky is the limit for some of these girls, right? It's
true.
What we are going to see, I think, in the next 5 to 7 years, it's going to be insane stuff, honestly speaking. And in this very tournament, we've seen so many outstanding performers, right? Like if we just go away from India and Australia for a bit and give credit to lots of other players, Annabelle Sutherland is unbelievably good with the ball and had that 98, of course, batting with Ash Gardner. Ash Gardner herself, her batting stats were like an average of 82, strike rate of 130, like video game numbers, and then 7 wickets to top it off. So those two, obviously, you expect that. Healy, again, she had a brilliant tournament. Her hundreds, both against India and Bangladesh, they were just like match winning stuff. And of course, again, Phoebe Litchfield also showed what she's capable of in that semi-final. That's just from Australia. Then even Heather Knight had an interesting tournament, I thought. She was not too bad.
There are lots of performers, right? Yeah,
Eccleston, of course.
Sri
Charani herself, she was so good. Today, I thought she was the one who, sort of changed that momentum in a way where I know there was the run out and everything, but she was bowling on the stumps consistently and they were not able to get her away at all.
They weren't, and no one has consistently been able to get her away that easily.
Yeah.
I feel like Sri Charani is one of the finds of the tournament. She's also new to the scene, hasn't really played a lot in an Indian jersey, and now, she has one-upped Radha Yadav, and that's a big thing to do as well. I know Radha has a poor game and she wasn't really played a lot in this World Cup, and I always thought of her as the elite slow left armour from India, but that's more so relevant in T20s. I feel like Sri
Charani is coming for T20s, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm telling you as well. Like I see it.
All her attributes are also adding up, right?
She looks like a female version of Sai Kishore. Maybe it's the hair. Right? But I love her. I'm absolutely a fan. And those guys, both of those people are slow left armers. I think she's one of the unsung heroes. Her performances versus Australia in particular, 3 for 41, followed by 2 for 49. In 20 overs, she took 5 wickets for 90 runs. against Australia. So, have a crack at
On
that.
good batting wickets, by the way.
Yes, on good batting wickets.
Not
And
even
today
on like
again,
turners or anything.
the figures might not reflect it. I mean, everyone's going to look at Deepti Sharma's 5 for 39 and maybe Shafali's 2 for 36, but whatever
Correct.
Sri Charni ended up with, I don't even remember. It was a valuable
Yeah.
contribution once
Very
again.
valuable.
Yeah. Anyway, I suppose that kind of wraps things up. It's been over an hour now that Cheyenne and I have been with you. Now is the time to
Absolutely.
send in a last minute super chat, by the way. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for all of your interactions and super chats. We had an amazing time. Congratulations once again to all Indian fans. There's another super chat, as I mentioned that. So Chico Roy is back with another generous one. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks,
He
man.
says, proud to be on this live pod, knowing there is Cheyenne and Behram on it. Sorry if you've received hate. Not today, actually. I haven't received hate today. Women of all religions playing. This is testament that we all do believe in more loving secular world. Screw the haters. Amen to that, buddy. I mean, Jemmy Rodriguez is a fine example of that, right? She kept Jesus super close to her heart throughout. And I mean, her story is indeed inspirational. The way she conquers her mental health demons and comes and performs in a big game. Again, I'll say it over and over again, man. I know she doesn't perform in the final, but that semi-final knock, for me, that is the knock of the tournament. Might be a bit chancy, but
completely
look at the context. Her being
sure.
dropped, her coming back, her being promoted to number 3, then going full Kohli in terms of how she bats at number 3 and finishes the game. But this is a big semi-final, and this is Australia out of all teams, right? Straya, mate. So yes, we will we will definitely bring Estelle back. The Banjan is asking. So Estelle is currently busy with the Murli pod, but you'll see us soon enough on a Good Areas podcast as well. Anyway, that kind of wraps up this show. So thank you for joining. Thank you for your interactions. Thank you very, very much for your super chats, because they do make a difference. And like I said, congratulations to all Indian fans, viewers and listeners. And also, generally, I feel like it's a big win for women's cricket overall. Forget who won this tournament. It was
We
such
got a
an
new winner.
enjoyable. We got a new winner. There was never a final before that didn't feature one of England or Australia. There were things that happened for the very first time over here. Lots of runs scored, runs on runs. And yeah, this World Cup will be remembered for a very long time. I personally enjoyed myself a lot. I don't think I've ever tuned into this much women's cricket before. It gradually is increasing with every tournament. Like, I watched the T20 World Cup a lot as well, but this World Cup, this ODI World Cup, I think I watched pretty much all of it, or a good 75 to 80% of it. You know, and
watched
I never
quite a
thought I
bit,
would.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
what I was
already
thinking, because-
covering
Exactly.
so many other series, and I don't know how I managed to find the time. But
Yeah.
anyway, it's been a pleasure, guys, and hope you all had fun with us over here. Just a quick reminder, you can go to goodareas.co and bookmark that webpage. That can prove to be a one-stop shop for you with respect to all the fun work that we do as part of our team, whether it be videos, podcasts, or written columns. And also, as I mentioned at the start of this pod, about an hour and 6 minutes ago, all of our podcasts on the Good Areas network, they are powered by our supporters on Patreon. And you can become one of them by going to Patreon/Good Areas Podcast. So that way you can enjoy ad-free content, you can talk to us exclusively, and you can give us podcast and specifically quick picks recommendations as well. But anyway, it's been a great day, great game, great evening. It's time for us to say goodbye. So have fun, enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you soon enough. That's all for now. Goodbye.